This is Norm King is our presenter today. He is with the Rotary Youth Exchange, and he has brought along with him Mrs. Meredith. She's a senior at Marcus High School, and she did an exchange in Germany, so she's going to get to tell you guys about that. So let's go ahead and get started. Thank you.
Okay, so I never know in the room who's actually here just to be here because they have to be here, and who really has an interest. So we're going to kind of cover this a little bit differently. Now, I looked at all your questions. She said that y'all had to submit before this. I think I'll answer most of them, which is really cool. That means we're all on the same page at least. So there's a lot more to being a youth exchange student or being involved in a youth exchange program than just exploring the world. But one of the things I think this program does, and other programs similar to this does, is it opens up a world of opportunities that y'all haven't even thought about yet. Beyond the going and doing cool stuff and doing trips and seeing things, there's some other stuff that being an exchange student kind of does for you that I just want to put on your radar, okay? Yes, I'm with the Rotary Youth Exchange Program. Rotary has been doing youth exchange programs for a bunch of years. There's about 8,000 students that do this program through Rotary every year. It's not just an American program. This is a program where countries all over the world are exchanging students. I think the misconception is that this is an American thing. It's not. Kids from France go to Germany, kids from Germany go to Brazil, kids from Brazil go all over the place. It's not just American students going. We, in fact, make up a smaller percentage of the exchange students than the other countries all put together. So I think that that's kind of cool to think about. This is for students. This is a high school program. 15 to 18 and a half is kind of the age brackets there. 15 sounds kind of young. We've had students go that just turned 15. I had a number of students that have gone that were sophomores. I don't judge maturity and ability to do this by age. It really does boil down to an individual, and I don't try and use that age thing as this person can or can't do it. I've met a lot of 18-year-olds that, good Lord, should never be left outside the home. All of these programs, whether it be Rotary or the others, involve a lot more than just going and being. Every time I talk to somebody that has been and done this, it always involves people. Relationships is what this is about. So every time I hear, I went and did this, it's I went and did this with, or we went and did these things, or I was able to go and do these, and so is with me. A lot of the stories involve the host families. A lot of the stories involve host siblings. So this isn't a go out on your own and you're all by your lonesome, and there's some of that there too, but it really does involve the relationships that are formed in these groups. So you talked to Mara, as y'all heard, was in Germany year before last year, 2016-17. And do you still talk to those exchange students?
Every day.
Are they all the American ones or just everybody?
Everybody. I keep in touch, even like time differences. Like you find like still time to talk. Like sometimes I wake up early just so I can talk to someone in Australia before they go to sleep. Stuff like that.
So it's not about the cool things and the fun things. It is, but it's really about being able to find like-minded individuals. And in the grander, larger scheme of things, Rotary's purpose is world peace. And I don't think you can develop world peace without knowing something about people. And the only way to do that is to go be with those people and learn about them. Period. I think it's abstract or too far outside of our realm of consciousness to be able to go, oh, well, I would really like for the people from that country to like us more. Or I would like to know more about... You can't do it that way. And it counts on people like Mare going and living in Germany and understanding why the Germans think like they do, why they judge us or why we judge them, and helping to break that down one individual at a time. And that's a bigger picture type thing. Now, for you guys individually, we've got 30 different plus countries to look at. Some countries we don't send people to just because it's not safe. There is no such thing as safe in the world. That's the I used to send kids to Belgium. You know why? It's boring. Nothing happens in Belgium. Everybody knows, it's kind of tucked in there in the middle of Europe. They have their thing. They got their waffles. They got their chocolates. They got their beers. And they just kind of exist. And I always thought, I'll send people to Belgium. They won't get in any trouble in Belgium. And then they have 2 terrorist attacks the year that I have 2 students there. Belgium's not safe. The United States is not safe. So what we do is, a lot of the times when you talk to your parents and they go, oh, I don't know if you could go there, it wouldn't be safe. A lot of times it has to do with how Rotary treats this. And one of the things that this program has that a lot of the others don't is infrastructure. And I know that doesn't sound important to you, but it has people that care about you, that are looking out for you, whether you know it or not. It's called kind of they call it the Rotary Mafia a little bit, because behind the scenes there's people that are there to make sure that you're safe. But we do, let's see, South America, I'm going to miss a country, so forgive me. Argentina, Brazil, Ecuador, Chile, Paraguay. I don't send people to Mexico, that's too easy. Colombia, and I don't send people to Colombia either. Peru. Peru's a great exchange country. Then in Asia, Korea, Taiwan, Japan. Certain areas in India we do exchanges with, and it depends on regions within India. It's not the entire country. Trying to think in other Asia. I don't send people to Thailand. There's some limitations there. Europe. Start at the southern part of Europe and just work your way up, and eventually you'll cover all the countries. Scandinavia, the same thing. So obviously there's a lot of country choices. Popular ones always end up being Germany, France, Spain. Everybody wants to go to France and hang out in Paris. They never put exchange students in Paris. You don't want to go to Paris anymore. It's annoying. Too many tourists. Italy, places like that. So you have do you need to know the language? How much German did you know, Mayor?
You need to know the language.
That's not ideal. Every word that you know, how many people in here speak more than one language at home and just naturally? So your brains are already wired to learn a new language. So let's say what other language do you speak? Okay, so I would not send you to a Spanish-speaking country. Why would you go to a country where you already speak the language, right? Would it make it easier? Well, of course. Sería más sencillo la vida si todos habláramos la misma lengua, claro que sí. But it's obviously better if you go to a country and learn a new language, right? And your brains are already wired for that. So it would be easier for you to learn that 3rd or 4th language, perhaps. So language helps because every word you speak of that language is a point of contact, is a way to build relationship, and a way to bond with people. I don't know if you know this about yourselves, but you high school students are not very patient. I know, it's shocking to you, I get it. But if you have somebody come in and they don't speak the language, how much do you really want to hang out with them? That's a lot of work, right? Translating for them, trying to figure out what the heck they're trying to do. Hey, are we going to go here? So if you can make that easier on those people that you're interacting with, it helps. But if you walk into it with like negligible language skills, you can still survive. So I don't expect people to walk in here and go, I want to go to Poland. I've never spoken Polish a day in my life, or Czech, or Slovakian, some of those more complex languages, Scandinavian, Finnish. Finland does a huge number of exchanges. Finnish is a very hard language. It's a very difficult culture. But people go and they do a lot of exchanges. So you can always find the country probably that would interest you. Somebody was excited about Japan. Japan does a lot of exchanges. It's a hard culture. And it's a hard language, obviously. They recognize that. So the students going to Japan, for instance, they have language school for them built in to the youth exchange program. So you're not going in there going, well, hey, I took 1 year of high school Japanese. I'm good. I've had students that have taken AP, 3 years of Spanish, walked into their first host family, in Argentina or Chile and gone, yeah, nothing. I got nothing for you. We have two programs in Rotary. We have the summer program. That's basically where you would fill out an application and then we would find a match for you that would match you with a girl or a guy. We do same sex, sorry. We don't do this cross-matching thing. It's not match.com. And we try and find similar interests. We try and find similar age. And it is actually, honestly, if y'all filled out a match.com thing, it would be easier. But we try and match you guys up. And then you would go and spend 3 or 4 weeks with that family and that student. And then after those 3 or 4 weeks, that student would come back with you and spend 3 or 4 weeks here in good old Texas hanging out and learning about your family and your culture. We call that more of a family-to-family exchange. That's one of those where once you're matched, then it's up to the families to kind of make the arrangements. I don't tell you how to do that. You don't need another person getting in the middle of that. I help facilitate it. We make sure the families are right. We make sure, the homes are right and all that other kind of stuff, and take care of the safety and the behind-the-scenes stuff. But the arrangements are made that way. I've had students do this where they've spent 5 and 6 weeks in each other's country. Whatever you can make work, right? That's not a norm thing has to decide. It's more of a communication between the families and making sure what works for your schedules. The other one's the year program. That's kind of the... Now, something to be said for this one. You think, how much am I going to get out of a culture or a language in just 3 or 4 weeks? Well, you think of it in terms of you're actually spending 6 to 8 weeks perhaps with someone. You will continuously be learning, even while they're here, language-wise, maybe not as much. But I know individuals that have done the summer program that 30 years later are still friends and still are involved in each other's lives because it's about relationship building. And it's about expanding out into the world. And wouldn't it be cool if every other year you swapped out and went to each other's homes for vacation, even after doing this for summer? And that happens a lot. The year program, it's 10 or 11 months living in a country. It is the full immersion. You do live with host families, sometimes multiple families. Mayor's case, you had one family, right? Rotary likes for you guys to have multiple families to kind of get different experiences. Because how I do things in my home may not be how Mayor does them in her home. So if a student goes to live with her and then comes over with me, they're going to see 2 different perspectives, hopefully. And the same thing in other countries. That's not a said, got to do it this way, but it happens more often than not. You do have to go to school in another language. You do have to participate. We would like for everybody to get decent enough grades. She's laughing, so I'm assuming that she was one of those decent enough grades.
Yeah.
Most of the time, let's see, who knows what the Japanese school schedule is? Do you know what the Japanese school schedule is, dude?
They have like 3 years in high school.
Yeah, but a daily schedule. You get up at 6:30 in the morning and you go to school and you're there at 7. You do the first half of the day. You get a break in there. You do lunch. You take a nap. And then you do the rest of the day until 7. And then because you're like everybody else, you tutor for another 2 hours. And you only have to do this 5.5 days a week. I'm hosting a boy from Korea, the good Korea. Jinsu gets up at 5:30 because he has to take an hour bus ride to school. He arrives at school at some ungodly hour, does the homework he didn't get done the night before, make sure it's all done, starts his classwork, goes to his classes. They have their first meal at school, which is breakfast. He has a snack at 11. They have lunch at 2. He takes a nap. Then he does another 5 hours of school. He gets home at 9. Now, on Saturdays, he goes to school, but he only has to be there till 2. He doesn't have to be there till 8, so that's a slacker day. What do you think his year here is? He is on freaking vacation. I mean, yeah, he's not getting good grades. Don't get me wrong. He's not rocking it. That's not what's happening. But he is certainly not having the struggle. And the whole getting up, he could not believe it when I said, well, yeah, you have to be at school, 7:45. Not till 7:45? Like, yeah, I think first bell's 7:50. He's like, oh, that's so easy. And we live 3 minutes from school. So, I mean, he could not believe he was leaving school at, 3 o'clock. He's like, now where do I go? I don't know, go to your room. Dude, I don't know what you want me to tell you. Do all that homework. I don't have homework. I've been doing it in class, during this class. He thought he was. Well, we don't want to get into it. Learning the language part. Not everybody has a great ear for languages. Some people rock it, some people don't. You are who you are. I think there's levels. I have some people that come back that are just stupid fluent, and I have some people come back that you can even tell they've been gone. And that's just ear. And that's just how our brains are wired sometimes. And I have some that come back and, if you don't use it, you lose it. That's as simple as it is. I haven't lived in Spain in a bunch of years, but I purposefully use the language as often as I could as far as Spanish. My background is I was born in Africa, Central African Republic. Then I spent 4 years in Ethiopia, then a year here in the U.S., and then 12 years in Spain. Then when I turned 18, I came to my exchange student country, which was the United States. My exchange was going from all those other places coming here. So the language, my Spanish, obviously, was more of my first language than second. And I've maintained it throughout these years just because I wanted to. My sister spent 4 more years in Spain than I did and speaks hardly any Spanish anymore. She just didn't use it. She just didn't purposefully try to make sure that she was engaged. What about the German culture surprised you the most? Do you remember?
Everyone always thinks about German as really mean people. When you watch those videos on Facebook of the language and it's just people screaming, it's really not like that.
Do you know how to say butterfly in German?
Schmetterling.
No, say it the right way.
Schmetterling.
There you go. That doesn't sound like butterfly.
It's not all people yelling at you you think.
I spent some time in Italy. I thought they were going to kill each other, the family I was living with. I was in Sicily. And so I was 16. I was on an exchange. It was very weird. I show up. Nobody was there to greet me. They just kind of pointed me towards the street where my family lived. I found the street. The houses all looked the same. I didn't have a house number. I had a house family name. The one guy on the corner kind of took me over there. I walked in. I knocked. And they greeted me. They were very happy to see me. I was on a university program, actually. Next morning, I get up. I go down to the university. I come back. When I got back to the house about 2 o'clock, there were 3 people in the kitchen screaming at the top of their lungs at each other. And I was expecting bloodshed. It was insane. And then I found out after being there for 6 weeks, that's just kind of how they are. They're just loud. And it sounds like they're going to murder each other. But they, 5 minutes later, they're down there having a glass of wine and they're all hunky-dory. But that's not what my culture, even though, Spaniards like to argue, don't get me wrong. But holy cow. But that kind of shock of culture, and the Sicilians are like that. I hosted a Sicilian boy a few years, our first exchange student we ever hosted, no, our second. Drama. Oh, Norman! Oh, I died! It's worst day of my life! What happened? I forgot my lunch! Dude, worst day of your life. Okay. He wanted to play baseball. He came home every day and we had to put ice packs on him. Because it was, my shoulder, my knee. Oh, it's like, everything was rough. But that's the Sicilians. Everything is high drama. But if you're not used to that, it can send your system into shock. So exploring culture oh, there it is, a lot of times involves those little nuances. The culture of Brazil versus Chile versus, you think South America is South America. It's not. So learning all those things is part of the fun of doing this. It's part of that learning about someone so that you understand them down the road. Now, the costs of this are always one of the first things I hear about. So the summer program is about $2,500. You don't pay that to Rotary. Airfare, it's summer. It's going to cost you some money to go somewhere. That's just what it is. Insurance, you got to buy insurance. It's good to have insurance because that's what insurance is for in case something bad happens. And then the cost to do things. I don't know you. I don't know how many things you want to do. I don't know how many family members you have to buy little tchotchkes things for and all that kind of stuff. But kind of how it works when you're on the summer program and you go to, let's say, France. In Europe, they do this weird thing called vacations, where they take off for 3 or 4 weeks vacation. We Americans don't do that. We ain't taking, moms and dads here ain't taking out for 3 or 4 weeks on vacation. It just doesn't done. But in Germany, in France, in other countries, they do. They take off 3 weeks. And if they've got an exchange student, you might go to 6 or 7 different countries. You might hit all of France if you're in France. You might travel up and down Italy. I have no clue. Last year, our student that went to Finland on exchange, he didn't go to just Finland. He went to Finland, to Sweden, to Norway. They went into Russia, which I wasn't supposed to know about. They went into Russia. And so his host, the dad here, the American dad's like, Norm, dude, we can't take off 3 or 4 weeks and haul this kid all over the United States. What are we going to do? I was like, yeah, good luck with that. No. But there's a lot to do here, just within the Metroplex, weekend trips. At some point, if y'all decide to do this, you may be driving. So you can, in day trips on the weekend down to San Antonio or Austin, places. But there are ways to do this, and there's ways to show them engagement here in the United States. It doesn't have to be a reciprocal, I'm going to take off 3 weeks and haul you around. That's just not the culture here. But it's all about communicating up front on those things with them so that the expectations are managed, right? And so some of that money that I quote there is for cost to do things here as well with that person you'd be matched with. The year program, I quote $5,500. Did y'all spend that or twice that much?
Me personally?
Yeah. Twice that much? Yeah, don't listen to her. I have students, it depends on where you go. If you go to Switzerland on exchange, it costs a schmuckload of money to do stuff in Switzerland. If you go to Spain, you can get away pretty cheap in certain parts of Spain. $5,500, the airfare, insurance. I tell you to kind of prepare for about $150 a month of spending money that you should plan on before you get there. And then tours, they have the tours. Each country has a tour where they do for 2 or 3 weeks. Some countries have multiple tours. Those cost between $1,500 and $2,500, I think, somewhere in that range. One of the things the Rotary program does on the year program is you receive a stipend or a monthly allowance from the Rotary Club that hosts you. It varies country to country and even district to district, but it's just a little spending money that you get. I wouldn't count on living on that money. But your room and board's provided, right? Schooling's provided. Most of the host families take care of basic needs. So your expenses within reason shouldn't be too crazy. If you do a bunch of the tours and travel around a lot, all of those things are going to add up. But I have students that have done it for less than that, and I have students like Mara that have done it for twice as much. Whatever you can get away with. I don't want money to ever be a reason somebody doesn't do this. Period. Rotary is a big organization. I work in fundraising. I can show you how to raise the money. I can show you how to write the "Oh, pity me, I'm just a high school student" letter and send that to everybody that you know. You can go do the GoFundMe stuff. There's, multiple ways. But this should never be the reason you don't do this program. I have students from every economic level that you can think of that do this program. So the money part, if you have a desire and this is your dream and this is something you really want to do, we can make that happen, okay? So that's definitely something to think about. Yes, ma'am. It's a challenge. Is it easy being an exchange student?
No.
Did you learn anything about yourself?
Yes.
That's probably the number one thing. You will learn so much about yourself and your abilities, capabilities, and what I think this also does is it gives you some of those critical thinking skills that most individuals do not develop until their junior year of college. Because you're doing some complex problem solving. You're doing some things where you're organizing your thoughts, your ideas about how your perception of life is at a much younger age than the average individual. You are also deciding and making decisions that will affect you down the road at a high school level versus a college level. I have study after study after study that I've read and seen and observed personally of individuals that go to college and excel because they did youth exchange and they're not overwhelmed by the college experience. It gives you a leg up. And that's not a bad thing to have. If you can walk in already with the confidence level, understanding how things work, understanding thought processes that you don't get in high school just because it's not structured correct. And that's not a good thing or a bad thing, it just is. You will learn about others. And I think as you go through life, and right now you learn about others, and a lot of it's negative. But I think when you do youth exchange and you do programs where you're traveling, whether it be now or in high school, or college, what you're learning about others is there is a different way of looking at things. And there's not always it's got to be this way and only this way. And we get locked into that as adults. And I really like it if you guys learn this early on, that it's not always got to be that way just because it is. There's other ways of looking at it. Experiences you can't get anywhere else. Had a girl go to France a few years ago. Her second week there, they decided to take her up to the Alps. That's in Europe, by the way. I know y'all haven't taken geography yet. And so they're driving around. As they get out of the car, they pull up to a barn in the middle of the Alps. And this guy, they start talking in French, and she speaks no French, so she has no clue what's happening. They wheel out a plane, this little tiny plane that this guy had built. She gets in the back seat, and they go flying off this field, and they fly around the Alps for about an hour and a half. Tell you what, can't get that experience everywhere. And not every student that goes to France gets that experience. But when you talk to her about that, when I talked to Alex about that, she says it was more the people that did it for her than the experience itself. Yes, she has that. But those people that took the time to drive a couple of hours up into the Alps, and this guy that took time out of his day because he was so proud of this little plane that he built, which probably should have scared the crap out of me if I'd have known about it. You know? That he took that time and effort to show her this, that they wanted to share. That pride is something they have. And you get to see that in people. And one of the cool things is, as you learn about these experiences, or as you learn about these cultures, the Euro Tour is how many countries?
About 6 or 7.
So in a 3.5 week period, you travel to 6 different countries in Europe, for instance, if you're in Germany. If you go to Chile, they do a trip to Easter Island. They do a trip to Patagonia. They used to do a trip to the Antarctic. They don't do that one anymore. Cost got out of hand on that one because you have to buy a bunch of equipment to go on that one. So it's not just going to that country, it's these experiences you get out of that as well. And as you're experiencing those, you're learning about that culture and about those individuals and about yourself at the same time, whether you like it or not. You just have to. Bigger picture even than that. I have been told by college acceptance and admissions people that when they see somebody has done youth exchange, it takes 27 of the 35 boxes on their admissions forms. Right off the bat, of things they're looking for. You can go to the college that you can settle on, that you know you can get into eventually, or you can maybe look at the Harvards, the Yales, the Rice. Now I'm going to go to Rice. Okay, go to Rice. Grade school. Boring. No. I have a girl that's from Nebraska. She's not one of our students from our area. So her story was, I look outside and I see cows, Norm. I look left and I see corn, Norm. I mean, she was out there. Look right, I see more cows and more corn. And that's what her experience, that's what her life in Nebraska was. She never thought, until going on youth exchange, that she'd go to Harvard. It's a tough admission. The girl, y'all know where Kennedale, Texas is? I'm from Kennedale, Texas. That's where I live. 6,155 people, little tiny school, little tiny town. I mean, we're in the Metroplex. I cross the street, I'm in Arlington. But that's not good for the story. Our first exchange student went to Chile. She was pretty much, okay, I can go to UTA, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. But she really wanted to go to Pepperdine because it had a specific program. Everybody that applies to Pepperdine, because it's a small school in California, is a 4.0 student. Everybody. When she sat down, they do personal interviews. You don't do phone interviews, you don't just fill it out. You show up, they interview you. The minute they heard she had been an exchange student, they all just kind of went, okay, she's in. It's cool, but that's an expensive school. When she started applying for scholarships and grants, $80,000 plus. And they told her, because you're an exchange student. Because we know you've accomplished something, we know you have followed through, we know you have the critical thinking skills that we need you to have. And because right now we know that as a scholarship and grant program, up to 40% of the students we give money to end up not graduating. But we know you can do it because you've already got a proven track record of being able to accomplish things. And we like exchange students. And I hear that time after time after time. College credit hours in language. Let's say you go to Spain, come back, test out in Spanish. 14 to 16 college credit hours. We're taking a $150 test. How much money is 14 college credit hours at UT? Wild guess, 15 grand. For 150 bucks, the investment of that 5,500 bucks to go and spend a year in Spain or Germany or France or Taiwan or any of these countries where you can test out in the language, 14 to 16 college credit hours. Some schools offer life skill courses, which if you meet the criteria, they'll give you an additional four hours. It's a heck of a way to walk into college with all these college credit hours already there, plus the skill set. Enhanced study abroad. So let's say you want to study abroad during your sophomore, junior year, whatever. Some of those programs, you can get those paid for where you don't pay a dime if you apply and you meet the criteria. And one of those criteria is, maybe if you've been there and done that before, and I can give you a list of a dozen people that I know right off the top of my head that have gone and spent semesters abroad and has cost them nothing. Everything was covered. So if you're thinking about doing that in the future, that's great. You should look into programs. Almost every university has some form of exchange program. Most of those occur, very few of those are freshman year, and you don't want to go your freshman year anyways. It's too overwhelming. Second semester, sophomore year is usually best, and then into junior, up into the senior years, etc. The bigger one, why do you go to college? Why is anybody going to school anyways? To get a job, right? To be able to enhance those job opportunities. So I talk to human resource managers all over the place. My wife works for a multinational company. Who else would they want to hire but people that understand cultures and have lived there and been there and done that? And the data is that you will earn so much more than your peer that is just graduating. You graduate with 300 other people, what's going to set you apart? That exchange program you did in high school, that letter you write saying how that applies to not just the job, but to the school, but to life in general. And we teach you how to do those things. You're not just having to figure it out on your own. We have a thing after you get back from a year abroad where you sit down and you have to think these things through. You have to kind of go, okay, now what do I do with this year? This is just the start. It's not the end. You did your year and what, the door closes? No, that's the door opening. You got to look at it from that point of view. So there's a lot more that goes into this that if you start thinking about it now, if you start looking at it, projecting out 4, 6, 7 years from now even, the benefits that you can attain from just even the summer program, even those 6 weeks, you can utilize all that information and all that stuff that you didn't even know you were going to get. You can utilize all of that. I may let you help me here in a second. Okay, maybe you're going for the food. You know, and I have no problem with that. If you say, Norm, the only reason I want to go is to have a real baguette in France, I am cool with that. If all the reason you want to go is because you want to walk in and have a choice of every cheese you can think of, I'm okay with that. If you say, I've watched the Food Network, I think street food in Taiwan rocks, that's what I want to go do, I'm okay with that too. Because all of that is culture. All of that is learning about yourselves. And all of that is expanding your horizons. Now, if you want to go and turn into a vegetarian, I can't help you. I'm teasing. I'm sure vegetarians are nice people too.
You guys need to get on the bus to Maine.
Oh, sorry.
It's a couple of them. You guys can go ahead and go. Just the kids on to Maine.
I have two. Mr. Norman? Is it his name?
Yes.
Did I say it wrong?
No, you're fine.
Okay. I had a question. So, like, let's say you're just, like, you want to go on it, but you're just kind of worried about not being able to, like, come back and be okay, like, in your classes and stuff. Should that be a, like, a
Talk to the counselors, because I have a number of students that leave and go and come back and finish on time, if not ahead. There's ways of doing that. And actually, you're ideal now in being able to look at those type of things, okay? Because you can work with the hours. You may have to put a little bit of extra work before you leave, but it's well worth it.
You don't have to put it.
You don't have to put it, but you may not want to have to come back and do another year of high school either.
Yeah.
I know. So, perhaps your ideal thing is to eat Belgian waffles in Belgium. The young lady in the middle, she's from Keller. Don't hold that against her. No, don't ask me names. So, when she said, "Oh, I want to go to Belgium," I really want to eat Belgian waffles. That was her first thing she said. So when she got to do this, she sent me that picture of, "Hey, it's me eating Belgian waffles." I don't know you. I don't know if it's the right thing for you. I don't know when the best time to go might be. I don't know if it's after your senior year. If it is your senior year, if it's going during your sophomore year, you have to kind of talk that over with family. You got to talk that over with counselors and teachers. Not everybody is suited for this. It is hard being an exchange student. The challenge is not something I take lightly. Mayor's heard me say this. I cannot imagine sitting in my room in a foreign country, not speaking the language, not having made friends, and having perhaps that day had to turn in my first test where I didn't even know where to put my stupid name on the paper. That'd be a little depressing, you know? That'd be a little bit of a, oh, what have I got myself into? And not everybody has the resiliency to bounce back from those challenges. They just don't. But if you do, you learn so much about yourself and your capabilities and your abilities. So these are some of our students that are here this year. And I apologize. I should have brought her over to also to kind of be here. She's at Louisville High School. She's this, I think they register everybody as juniors. She's from Barcelona, Spain. Really cool kid. She's amazing. Her English, when she got here, was she'd taken it to heart. She had learned the language. And one of the cool things about her also is, y'all don't follow the news probably, but there's so much going on in the region of Spain that she is from, where they're trying to become independent. They're trying to become their own country, Barcelona, Catalonia. And the example she uses, well, I came to the right state, Texas. Y'all always want to be independent. Different independence, but it's still good conversations. You may or may not be ready for that adventure. I have no clue what time it is. I lost track, sorry.
We have about 10 minutes.
Okay, good. So these are, when everybody gets here, we welcome them at the airport. These are all of our students that are here right now. Click on pictures for me. Just click on the pictures, and it should pull them up. Pick on the ones that have, yeah, this one's fine. So these two girls are both from Germany. One girl is living in Denton and the other one's living in Argyle. Those are the host families and my goofy grin. On to the next one. Yeah, I look really goofy in all these videos. Just click X, or you can do that too. Oh, yeah, so, probably that. So this dude, that's Max, he's 6'5". That's his host mom. She's 4'11", she claims. I don't think she quite gets there. They're from Nakona. He's been living in Nakona. Anybody know where Nakona is? It's about 2 hours from here. It's a town of about 4,000 people. Everybody in town knows Max. How could you not? You got the 6'5", kind of good-looking French dude with his accent. You know? Yeah. Anyways, go on to the next one. Make it happen.
I'm trying.
I don't care. Just hit the, yeah, okay.
Oh, it went back.
Do it the other direction. Oh, that's okay, we're sideways again. This is Israel, or Isra. He's from Chile. He's out in Abilene. Every one of these kids has a story. Max spoke zip, zero, niet, nine, no English when he got here. Isra's English was actually pretty good. He's living with a cop. His parents were pretty happy when they saw, oh, he gets to live with a police officer. Cool. He's the resource officer at the school, too. Oh. He sees a lot of his host dad. Pick one that has two. Oh, hello. Wow, they're getting a lot of Nate. Actually, you can leave Nate there. You make it a little bit smaller. Nate is actually from Fort Worth, and he's living in Chile right now. And next to him is Leo, who is from Germany and is living at Nate's house here. That one's good. Okay, so here we have me again. Sophia is living in Kennedale. She's from Spain. She's from a beautiful area of Spain along the Mediterranean coast. It's kind of a pain when you bring somebody from one of those resort places that, is the picture, you just take a picture and everything's beautiful, and you put them in Kennedale. But she's doing okay. She's got 5 host sisters. Okay, this is one of them I wanted. So we got Breno here. Breno's from Brazil, Bahia, on the coast of Brazil. And next to him is Francesco. Francesco was an exchange student that was here 2 years ago. Was it 2 years or 1 year?
2.
2, right? 2 years ago. He was at
Angie Cox's house.
Marcus High School.
Flower Mound.
Flower Mound High School, that's right. And he happened to be visiting the host family. Actually, visiting isn't the right word. Living with them again. He was here for like 3 months this past summer. So he came out to the airport to welcome Breno and told him it was all going to be okay. I go to the airport to meet all the students because they get off the plane and they have this deer in the headlights look. There's people waiting for me. I know I've Skyped with these people, but now they're talking to me in this weird language they call English, but I know it's not English. It's a bizarre Texas thing, and everybody's doing it at once. And every exchange student, their number one fear on the plane is there going to be someone there to meet me? Whether you Skype and message and texted with your host family before you get on the plane, the biggest fear and apprehension is there going to be somebody there to meet me? And will I be getting to the right airport? You'd think the plane would know its way there. You'd think these airlines had done it before. So when they see these signs and they see people welcoming you, you had a welcome party, right? Mm-hmm. It's automatically building that engagement and building that relationship building. And each one of these individuals experiences that. 3 of these people are just friends of the host brother. Yeah. They just went to welcome the student, and that's what it's about. Huh?
Does anybody have questions for Mr. King?
Any questions?
And then, so one thing that I want to add is, let's say like this night has sparked an interest, but you think that you might need to wait until college, then make this a part of your college search. So if that can be one of the boxes that you want checked for the college that you pick. You can talk to the university about their study abroad programs, what the requirements are, what countries they go to, because you do have to have a certain GPA,
Yep.
and you have to fill out an application. Sometimes there's an interview also.
And some of the schools only exchange with partner universities, which isn't a bad thing. That means there's a relationship.
Yes.
So if, for instance, you were going to, I can't remember a school off the top of my head, but American University or something like that, they have partnerships with specific schools around the world. And that'd be the one you'd have to go to. And that's not a bad thing, because that means they've got a program in place that is specific to get you the credit hours, to get you the things that you want to do. One of our star students, she did an exchange to Panama because it had the specific program in water resources that she wanted to study. And it was a partner school with her university here. She also got to go to Labrador on another study abroad program. So there's lots of ways to look at that.
One other is there's also something called National Student Exchange. So that's a school exchange within our country. So let's say you go to school in Texas, but you want to spend a semester in New York City. You apply for the National Student Exchange and you go there for a semester or a year, but you're paying your Texas in-state tuition. So that's one more that you can just keep in mind. We want you guys to know that there's lots of options. But the best benefit of this one is that this one will really, really set you apart in your college application.
Any program. I mean, I love Rotary. The cost you can't beat. The other high school programs start at twice this much. The money part, like I said, but also it's the knowing that when you talk to your parents and they talk to me and what I can describe, I know the people in France that do this. I have met with them personally. I know the Italian youth exchange people. Knowing those individuals versus just I'm sending you and hoping for the best, and knowing that it's reciprocal and that they're doing the same things that I'm doing to make sure you guys are safe. That's just one of those things that adds a layer of this to that you don't see as a student necessarily, but it's happening. And so it's something to consider also when you're walking into those situations and you have a college and you have a career plan. You can tailor sometimes your exchange to that. So if you know you're wanting to get into a certain type of program at the university level, doesn't matter which program you go on, you can sometimes pick and choose. I have kids that go and they say, Norm, I've always wanted to be a baker. Well, heck, I'll send you to one of the best baking areas in France or Italy. I call them and we can do that. The students that go down into Brazil, the way the exchange works there, you show up the last semester of the senior year, typically, if you're at the right age group, which is 17. That next semester, you may start at the college level there. If you pass a test, they may put you into it's really a junior college, but hey, college is college for basics and stuff like that. So they will start them out in that February schedule in a college or university type thing. So those kind of things are also just added things that if you're looking and doing your homework and research, isn't a bad thing. IB programs and things like that. The Finnish program, the Finnish school program is basically every school is an IB program school. But they also only go to school for 5 hours in Finland.
Does anyone have any questions, maybe for Meredith, who has been on this before?
Would you do it again?
Yeah.
She's trying to go on a second exchange.
Wow.
That's allowed if you're at the right age level.
And
Something to be aware of. I do have problems with some countries getting 18-year-olds into that country. So if you're thinking I could do this as a gap year program, yes, but you may not be able to choose your country. A lot of them are cutting me off. I can't, for instance, enroll in LISD any 18-year-old graduate. They all have to be 17 and not having graduated in their own countries yet.
do you guys know what a gap year is? Who knows what a gap year?
Can you take off like a year between high school and college?
Exactly.
Because you may not know. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was 18. Still don't know.
Yeah. Obama's daughter did that.
I think gap years are great